Good evening. So, welcome everyone to the 9th annual It Could Happen to You Servants of Justice Awards Banquet. And we're going to move along here rather quickly with a kind of adjust the schedule because Assemblywoman Walker has another engagement, and we're going to do that award at 7:15, 7:20. And then that way Marvin can, have a platform for the rest of the evening, which is pretty dangerous. So anyways, let me just start off by, my name is Bill Bastick, I'm chair of It Could Happen to You, and I'm going to try and move along here rapidly. We have some It Could Happen to You board members and advisory board members here. So Steve Downs. Steve, stand up, please. Steve helped write the legislation to establish the Commission on Prosecutorial Conduct here in New York, and also has been working with us in California on the Commission draft bill, which we hope to have introduced soon. We also have Annie Rhodey Wright. Annie, she's one of our board members. Annie actually teaches a course on wrongful convictions at Siena College. It doesn't focus on how to get wrongfully convicted. It focuses on how not to get wrongfully convicted. Pam Booker. Pam Booker with Prison Families of New York. Standing in back of Pam is Jeffrey Deskovic. He's an advisor. And I don't see any other members of our board here. However, Tom Hoffman, who is a member of our board, who is a past recipient of last year's Private Sector Servant of Justice Award, is with Bennett Gershman. For those of you who don't know Bennett Gershman, Bennett is the nation's leading and renowned expert on wrongful convictions and on ethics. And Bennett normally attends these dinners, but right now he's being honored by the New York Law Journal, receiving the Legacy Award from the New York Law Journal, and Tom Hoffman is there helping present that award to him. And I think that's it. I just want to ask our honorees just to stand for a minute. Assemblywoman Latrice Walker and Marvin Schechter. We also have Niall, who is Assemblywoman Walker's daughter. Where's Niall? We have Renee Troutman, one of Assemblywoman Walker's staff. We also have, I neglected to mention, Linda Johnson, one of our It Could Happen to You board members. And my wife, Trace Gordon Bastick, who's also the advisory board member. That being said, this past year has been very productive for It Could Happen to You. We secured, thanks to Governor Kathy Hochul, $1.75 million in the executive budget as a startup for the startup money from the Commission on Prosecutorial Conduct. And the appointments are in progress. I just want to give a quick report on that. We were asked to submit some recommendations back on about a year and a half ago for the commission. One of our top recommendations was Mayo Bartlett, who many of you may know is a former Westchester County prosecutor, a police officer, defense attorney. Senate Speaker Cousins recommended Mayo, so Mayo is going to be a commission member. And also a surprise board commission member, Amy Marion, who happens to be with us here tonight. Amy. Amy's not sworn in yet, so we can't begin to file complaints with her. And I talked to the Governor's Council today, and we expect their appointments within the next 3 or 4 weeks. The Governor's 4 appointments. I spoke to the Senate Minority Leader's Office today. They are continuing to review applications, but they asked us if we have any recommendations, and we're going to submit them some recommendations next week. Amy, if there's anybody you would like to work with, let us know. And we spoke with the Assembly Minority Leader's Office. They also asked some recommendations, and they're reviewing applications. The Chief Judge gets 3 appointments, and they were made in December. They are, I talked to Marvin and Amy about these, well, not Amy, but mainly Marvin about the appointments. And so the Chief Judge appointed the Honorable Michael Obus, Randall Eng, and Richard Eng.
Richard Simons.
And also Michael Simons, the Dean of the St. John's University School of Law. We had recommended Ben Kirschman, the Dean of the St. John's University School of Law. Michael Simons, hopefully we can work with, but has no practicing criminal justice experience. And according to our honoree tonight, Judge Eng and Judge Otis are horrible recommendations. We can say things like this. That being said, our goal this year is for It Could Happen to You and the coalitions that are with us tonight is to pass the New York State Preventing Wrongful Convictions Act. And 2 organizations that are here tonight who are working very hard, Vocal New York and the Center for Community Alternatives. We're going to be working very closely with them to bring that over the finish line this coming year. But we will only be, actually, we'll be the first state in the nation that will provide the right to counsel for those trying to prove their innocence. And so let's all work together to get that bill passed. You'll be hearing more. And we're also working on a bill with Assemblywoman Walker and State Senator Salazar to expand, with no exceptions, videotaping of wrongful videotaping of interrogations by law enforcement. That's it. Jeff Duskovic is going to introduce the exonerees that we have here tonight quickly. The victims of prosecutorial misconduct, actually in most of these cases. Jeffrey?
Good evening, my name is Jeff Duskovic, and I'm an advisory board member of the Justice Coalition Group, It Could Happen to You. My nonprofit organization, the Jeffrey Justin Foundation for Justice, which exonerates the wrongfully convicted, and also works for policy change. So we do our policy work exclusively through the It Could Happen to You coalition. I got started with this advocacy work because I spent 16 years in prison myself. Wrongfully, I was 16 when I was arrested. I turned 17 by the time the trial rolled around, which I lost. And I spent the next 16 years in prison until I was 32 years old, until DNA proved my innocence, and hence doing this advocacy work, having a nonprofit, and I'm an attorney also. I'm dedicated to freeing people. So I'd like to just quickly announce some of the heroes of justice reform as my colleague Bill, and I often joke around with Bill, you know, Bill, it's not really clear which of us are in charge. I mean, it's your coalition, I'm an advisory board member, but you also work for me part-time at Foundation doing policy work, so I can do a little bit. But in all seriousness, let's start out. Falsely accused but not convicted, Anthony Dolce, please come up. And we're going to have people on the stage. We're going to do a group photo because this is what this policy work all represents. Fighting for justice, Foundation client who survived 27 years wrongfully incarcerated. Carolyn Warmus is here tonight. Carolyn, could you come up, please? Another Foundation client who survived 29 years. We're in process of exonerating him. We were able to, please come up, Carolyn. We were able to convince the parole board to release him, that his innocence claim had validity, and it's very hard to do that. We're working on exonerating him. A man who survived 29 years, Ronaldo Clark, is here. Another Foundation client who survived 20 years, we're in process of exonerating him. Wayne Drummond is here tonight. Still fighting for justice, also Frank Vetro is here with us tonight. And another Foundation client who survived 25 years. Again, we helped get him out on parole, working on practice cases here in Brooklyn. Divine Whitfield is here tonight. Actually exonerated after 23 years. Robert Majors is here tonight. Preferring to sit in his chair. You're going to come up? All right, well, a man who survived 31 years, wrongful incarceration, and exonerated by DNA, Ron Jacobson is here. And one more person fighting for exoneration, I forgot on the front end, a man who survived 25 years, whose case is working on being exonerated in Queens. Henry Smith is here tonight. So we're going to just do a brief photo, and we will go back to the table.
How many combined years? Too many.
You
can get back to me on it.
I will get back. I will hazard, considering some of the numbers, the football numbers I mentioned. I dare say we're about 200, more or less. We'll get scientific after, but for right now, I would say that. All right, so we'll take a quick photo, and then we'll rejoin, and the program will continue. Well, we survived, and we're here, and we're fighting for justice reform. I'd like to recognize also fighters for justice that try to exonerate. Adele Bernard is here, who exonerates people as an attorney. I'd like to recognize Adele. And of course, always with my respect. And someone who exonerated 10 people as an attorney at the Innocence Project, now working to do the same in the Queens District Attorney's Office, heading their conviction review unit. Bryce Benjet is with us. Thank you very much.
I think that might help a little. A little bit better.
This is as bright as it goes. This is as bright as it goes.
Okay.
Anyway, they contacted me about it.
Folks. Hello. Hello, folks. But don't worry, it's not a wedding. So just before we begin the awards presentation to Assemblywoman Walker, I just want to recognize two other people. One is Patrice Turin from Sherman, who was recently exonerated. Obviously, largely convicted. Also, Richard Chalk.
Yeah.
He received clemency from Governor Cuomo in August of 2021 during his last moments in office. And then also we have our good friend Oral Hillary here. Oral was wrongfully prosecuted. Now, Oral was partially responsible for the passage of the New York State Commission on Prosecutorial Conduct Bill because Oral Hillary was wrongfully prosecuted by one Mary Raines. And Mary Raines was I guess, a pretty atrocious prosecutor up in St. Louis County, who not only campaigned on a platform to prosecute Oral, but proceeded to wrongfully prosecute him. Fortunately, at a bench trial, Oral was found innocent by a judge, and his story is on, what is it, Oral?
HBO?
HBO. What is it? Who Killed Garrett Phillips?
That's correct.
Who killed Garrett Phillips? So we still don't know that. After repeated attempts to the State Attorney General's office and local police to reinvestigate that. So, World, thank you. You went through a hell of a lot. You've been with us since then. Now we'd like to present the award, our Public Servant of Justice Award, to Assemblywoman Latrice Walker. And before she comes up, I just want to go over our past recipients of the It Could Happen to You Public Sector Servant of Justice Awards. Our first award was in 2013 to New York State Assemblyman Joey Lento. Just want to let you know the lineage. In 2014, we presented a dual award to State Senator John DeFrancisco and Assemblyman Nick Perry, who is no longer with us. He is enjoying himself in Jamaica as the U.S. Ambassador to Jamaica. Hopefully, maybe we'll have our awards banquet there next year. In 2015, New York State Senator Ruth Astor Thompson. In 2016, New York State Assemblyman Daniel O'Donnell. In 2018, we presented the award to City Council members. Tiffany Garriga of Hudson, Dorsey Eples of Albany, Khalid Bey of Syracuse, Willie Lightfoot of Rochester, Cordisa Bey Isaac of Yonkers, and Shana Williams of Yonkers. And the reason we did that in 2018, by the way, was that was the year that the governor signed the initial New York State Commission bill, and all those city councils passed resolutions endorsing the Commission on Prosecutorial Conduct, which I think is something we should do with the Wrongful Convictions Act this year. In 2019, we presented the award to New York State Assembly Speaker Carl Hastie. In 2020, New York State Assemblyman Dan Court. And in 2021, New York State Senator Jabal Bailey. And this year, we're going to be presenting the Public Servant of Justice Award to Assemblywoman Latrice Montague Walker, and to provide a few remarks, introductory remarks. We have Roger from Boca, New York, and Kathleen, and also to be followed by Katie Schaefer from the Center for Community Alternatives. Roger.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
I would like to thank Latrice Walker for being so active, advocate for those that are most marginalized. I have been with Latrice Walker for a couple of years. I've seen her work. She was the champion of the bail reform, discovery, and speedy trial, and she is truly for real about changing the criminal justice system. And as an attorney, she knows exactly what would happen if you give judges the discretion to hold somebody in jail. It's not the right thing to do. Hardly nobody would get out if it was left to the judges for them to determine if somebody is a danger or not. So I just want to thank you, man. You've been extremely well. The community loves you, and we want you to keep up that fight. You know what I'm saying? Thanks a lot for everything. And with that, I'll let my colleague help out.
Assemblymember Walker, I'm so honored to be able to introduce you tonight. You are smart, you are knowledgeable, and I think most powerfully, you are deeply committed to the fight for justice. Latrice Walker is a person who brings fire to any room that she is in. She can move a whole group of people to their feet. She can move them into action. She is the kind of legislator who other legislators go to for principled guidance. People want to know, what is Latrice doing? What is she working on? What does she think we should be doing? Assemblymember Walker, as Roger said, led the fight for bail reform, a fight about protecting our constitutional right to the presumption of innocence, about addressing the criminalization of poverty, about ending the mass pretrial incarceration of Black, brown, and low-income people. Assemblymember Walker is not just a leader in New York, she's a leader nationally. What we do here matters across the country. Right now, in addition to the bill that Bill spoke about, Assemblymember Walker is carrying the Second Look Act. This is groundbreaking sentencing reform legislation that would allow incarcerated people to go back before a judge to have their sentence reviewed. It would allow judges to review and reconsider excessive sentences. This is a movement that is happening across the country. Cory Booker has a bill at the federal level, a bill has passed in DC, but Assemblymember Walker carries the strongest bill in the country. She is exactly the kind of legislator we want to work with. She is a powerhouse, the kind of person you want representing you. She listens to her constituents, she crafts solutions, she wins change, and then to Roger's point, she is somebody who will stand up to the backlash that seems to inevitably follow any civil rights advancement. So thank you for all of your work, Assemblymember Walker.
Wrongful Conviction Act. Pass the Challenging Wrongful Conviction Act next year. All right? Please pass the Challenging Wrongful Conviction Act.
Thank you so much, Katie Schaefer and Roger Clark. And I just want to say this about Katie Schaefer, where are you? Katie Schaefer, Roger Clark. Listen, if you're ever in Albany on any criminal justice reform group day, you'll see Roger, you'll see Katie in the halls, holding a press conference, outside of these Senate doors, railing people, or on the steps someplace in the Capitol.
I'm in college now.
What?
I'm in college now, so you won't see much of me.
You're in college?
Yeah.
All right. You're going to get your PhD?
He's going to law school next.
Law school? Yeah. So if Roger and Katie could come up here when I present this award, I just want to say one other thing about the Assemblywoman. She also chairs the Elections Committee. And right now, as we all know, democracy is under attack by the former President of the United States and a lot of other folks across the United States who are making false claims about the election. And right now, a lot of folks a lot of regressives want to turn back the clock on voting rights. Really the sacred heart of democracy. And this past session, Assemblywoman Walker led the fight and chaired the passage of the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Act of New York. This is the first John F. Lewis Voting Rights Act in the country. It's going to serve as a model for open elections, for free elections, and it could happen to you. We've got some chapters in other states, and we're going to carry your bill to those other states because there is nothing more important right now on the agenda, as much as we're fighting for criminal justice reform, than those who are trying to take back the right to vote. So, thank you. And I would like to present you with the, come on up here, guys. You guys present it to me. Come on. We would be nothing without these grassroots coalitions. So, we're going to present you with the, oh, she took the foil off. That's good. We're going to put that back on. With the 2022 New York State Public Sector Servant of Justice Award, presented to the Honorable Assemblywoman Latrice Bantique Walker. Monique. Thank you for your commitment to enhancing equality and fairness in American justice. And I apologize for misspelling your name, but there's a lot of prosecutors that misspell my last name.
Well, I will admit, shamelessly, that I'm glad when you said Montique, I was like, well, I was trying to figure out, Bill, what? you just little Bill to me. That was a great cartoon. I'm gonna come exchange places with you. And so, of course, when it comes to voting, we also provided for an opportunity where people who were formerly incarcerated can now register to vote and vote. When I initially was elected, I was advised that 25,000 people were returning to my district from the upstate criminal injustice system. And that's 25,000 voices. And it is about time that they are able to execute their advocacy at the polls, just like each and every one of us should do and ought to do, because it's so important that, you know, that Voting Rights Act is something that people died for. They were hung. Dogs. I mean, you just think, for voting. What is it that's so amazing about the franchise that would make someone go to such inhumane actions just to prevent someone from doing it? How many bubbles are in a bar of soap? And these are the types of things that we fight against. And so I know I am honored to have my other mama, who's here, Wanda Burris, who is always like, Tracy, you need to get some rest. Stop letting them run you ragged. So it was important for her to hear from you, Roger, and Katie, and Bill, and Jeff, because, you know, it's a labor of love, and eventually the rest that is required, we'll find it somehow. And of course, my daughter, Nile, is here. Come on up for a second, Nile. So Nile gets the amazing benefit of hearing me, you know, battle with the mayor as she's on her Zoom class, and she's like, oh, don't mind the person in the background. That's just my mom challenging the mayor to a debate on air. And so she came up the other day as we were sitting in the car. She said something about the work that we're doing together. And you know, you don't recognize that, you know, little people are watching you, and what is it, or how they see the work it is that you do. So you can share with everyone what you. Okay.
So the joke that me and my mom were talking about is, need a get out of jail free card? Call 347-986-7865. Get one today.
So clearly, I am a square on the Monopoly board. And of course, we have Renee, who is here, who, you know, has to put up with me and all my antics. So good evening. Of course, I have the beautiful opportunity to represent a neighborhood I was born and raised in, and that's the community of Brownsville. And for me, issues regarding criminal justice reform, being wrongfully convicted, is Tuesday, right? For some people, it shocks their conscience. For me, it's like, but of course, you did 27 years wrongfully convicted. Doesn't everyone do that? Because this is the experience of Anthony and Leb and so many other individuals who we have an opportunity to support through their experiences. And as I was speaking with Attorney Marion, on some circumstances. There was one situation where a person who was wrongfully convicted, the person who he was imprisoned for murdering, his mom and dad are like another mother and father for me, right? And so it was so hard. So can you imagine the pain that you have to feel when the person who's accused of the crime and the person who is the victim of the crime, they live next door, across the street. And so we have to be within and without, right? We have to want, but be forced to be hungry. And this is just the experiences that we have. And so again, I know that this is it's episodic, right? To receive this award, and I am humbled to receive the It Can Happen to You Public Servant Award with some amazing, amazing leaders. But it's a snapshot, and it allows me to recognize how important the work is that we're doing and how important it is for us to be able to move forward. But I am inspired by your story, Jeff. I always tease Jeff. He was talking to me, we have to pass this bill, we have to do all these things. And I'm like, Jeff, you don't remember me? And he's like, remember you from where? And I'm like, I met you at friend Dolly's house in Westchester when I was at Pace Law School, right? And who knew during that period that we were going to reunite again in Albany doing the type of work that we're doing, and both of us be lawyers. Wow. And so if that is an example really of how good God's grace and mercy is, then I don't know what is. And so I also have an opportunity this year to serve as a professor at Hunter College, teaching criminal justice and criminal justice reform to the next generation of advocates and leaders. And I would love it if they get an opportunity to hear from you. And, being the person who's the engine, I guess we would say, behind bail reform is not an easy title to have. I've received so many emails telling me that I am like the stuff under the bottom of people's shoes. That there's no better bitch than a... Right? And these are the types of things that we have to continue to fight through. We may think that as a black race, it has taken us 400 years or more to get to this point. But the fact of the matter remains is that the 13th Amendment, as each and every one of you know, abolished slavery except in the case of criminal punishment. And so, my dear Kizzy, you have a namesake in Roots. And this one particular piece of legislation is the one thing that separates Kizzy present from Kizzy from Roots. And the minute she is subjected to the criminal justice system, she is a slave in the truest sense of the word. What you read about, what you see, what you heard about, the stories that you were told, that's the person that we look at each and every day behind those walls. And so this is an abolition period for us. We have to continue to go to speak truth to power, as I'm going to go when I leave here to Speaker Carl Hastie's event. He's right here in Brooklyn, hosting an event this evening. But sometimes I have to take actions that most people would never do. And so this year, when they were trying to put a dangerousness standard in bail, I didn't know what else to do. So we're standing there at this press conference that Bill was talking about that these two host all the time. I said, I'm going on a hunger strike. I had no idea what being on a hunger strike was, but I just knew that it was something that was placed on my heart at that moment. And I'm a person of my word because my father always taught me that your word is your bond. And so if I said I was going on a hunger strike, food was shut down, and I did so for 19 days. They were looking at me. Reporters are like, she's losing weight, so she really on this hunger strike. And my colleagues were supporting me. Some of them were also fasting and going through their thing. Those who were nurses were coming by, making sure that my blood pressure was okay. Some of my colleagues were bringing me Gatorade and bringing me water and bringing me this thing called bone broth, just because they knew how important it was, and I was putting not just my voice on the line, but my entire body on the line in order to prevent these types of injustices from happening. And even though they keep saying that bail is the reason why crime is spiking, to date, there has not been a single reputable study that connected crime to bail reform. And in fact, the data that was just recently released by the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services says the opposite.
Yes.
Numbers don't lie.
That's right.
People do. And so we are going to fight back with the facts. And so it is a pleasure to be able to work with you. I know that, all of this could happen to anyone, but in fact, it has happened to me. Because we know that in the Bible it says that anything you do to the least of these, you have done unto me. And so if it's good enough for Jesus H. Christ, it's good enough for us. So we will pass the Preventing Wrongful Convictions Act. We will fight to make sure we pass it this day so that we can make sure that there is some serious checks on the way interrogations are done, of course, in our state. And we have to make sure that these false confessions and any other official misconduct is caught on tape, since we're catching everything else on tape. And so we're going to do that, and we're going to fight for that. And of course, we are also going to fight very hard for the Second Look Act in order to provide an opportunity for people who are wrongfully convicted and or convicted justly, who have served their time, and who 40 years, 50 years, they've done everything it is that they can do. We know that people are aging behind bars and they're dying back there, that we have to do something to provide them a release mechanism. And so I want to lift up Ray Parrish, who is a brother who I grew up with, who is also someone who was wrongfully convicted and who needs your support and who needs your work. And so again, the deadline to register to vote for this November is fast approaching. It is on October 14th. I need you to vote like your life depends on it, because so many individuals who depend on you, their lives does depend on it. And I want to make sure that when we pass these bills and when we go up to Albany, we don't just knock the door down. We take the shit off the hinges so they can never put it back on. Thank you. I'm Assembly Member. Please follow me on Instagram and on Twitter. I am at the real Latrice Walker. Thank you.
All right, Marvin. Marvin's going to have a tough act to follow after dinner. And I want Assemblywoman Walker, when I first met you in your office this past fall, I've never met an Assemblywoman who kind of just comes out of her office, sits on the table with a lamp there, and just starts to chat with you for the next hour.
Or two.
An hour or two about anything under the... But there's a lot of formality when you go in and meet with elected representatives. But when you go in and meet with Assemblywoman Walker, it's like sitting at your lunch table and just kind of talking. So thank you so much. And there was reference made to Kizzy Cox here. Kizzy, any of you watched the Laura Flanders show on PBS? Kizzy Cox, come on, stand up. She did a documentary on they followed the commission on prosecutorial conduct. I had the opportunity to spend some time filming that with her in New York City this past July. The only thing I regret is having to walk up and down the sidewalk, trying to walk around people while she was trying to film me. She insisted I walk down the sidewalk. So, that being said, dinner's being served, and right after dinner, Marvin's going to, we're going to start with this long string of Marvin's disciples here. So Marvin, go on, lead your tables on here, because once you sit down again, you're not going to get a chance to get up again until Marvin gets done talking. That could be a long time. Marvin, go. The food's being served. Tables 1, 2, 3. Tables 1, 2, and 3.